The lead UN monitor to Syria will brief the Security Council later after the observation mission there was suspended. In 2011, Syrian cleric Shaykh Muhammad al-Yaqoubi became one of the first to speak out against the regime. Since then, he's been living in exile in Morocco. Earlier, I spoke to him and began by asking what he wanted to hear from General Mood.
Well, immediate action to protect civilians in disastrous areas such Homs. Homs has to be declared as an area under disaster. Human disaster and war zone is beyond imagination. The number of casualties every day, people are killed, and also from a human aspect, there's no food, it is under siege. And although the regime has called for or agreed on evacuation of civilians, but I believe they want to hunt all opposition in Homs. So we need immediate action, international protection of civilians in Syria.
The UN observer mission has been suspended following the upsurge in violence. Its mandate is due to expire next month anyway. Only 1 month left. What has it managed to achieve?
Well, reports about the massacres and the atrocities. What we need is more actions to protect civilians so that people can express their opinion, political resentment and opposition to the regime freely without being shot by bullets or by snipers. It is catastrophic now.
How much does this bring into question Kofi Annan's 6-point peace plan, which seems to have fallen on deaf ears? Rather than a cessation of the violence, we seem to have seen an increase. Particularly, I'm thinking about the Hula massacre.
Exactly. We're calling for the Kofi Annan plan peace to be implemented under Chapter 7 of UN Charter. This is the only way I believe that it could make an impact and a difference on the ground in Syria.
But do you believe that that will actually happen? Because there have been calls, there's been international condemnation, there's been a lot of talking, but as yet,
well, the other option,
changed.
people are being killed and massacred every day in Syria. Syria is getting into a state where the number of casualties is beyond even what the news can pick up every day.
Yeah, monitors saying 14,400 lives have now been lost. So what needs to be done to ensure that that peace plan is implemented?
Again, I say international pressure on Russia and other countries in order to have immediate action to protect civilians in Syria.
You talked about Russia there, Russia and China blocking, criticised for their blocking of the UN resolutions. We've had President Obama and President Putin calling for the immediate end to the conflict. They said they'd found many common points. Was that a sign of a possible breakthrough, do you think? Or is that too optimistic?
Exactly. I don't get too optimistic, but I think it's a good sign. We haven't seen the actual points of agreement between them. So there might come something out. But the news today also is quite worrying, with warships carrying weapons to Syria. This is very worrying. Russian commandos are getting into Syria to protect Russian citizens in Syria. Also more worries. So I think something has to come out to ensure the Syrian people that something is taken by the international community to protect them. It is not just the political interest.
Yeah, Senator John McCain is calling for US military action. Is that the answer? I mean, he flagged up the helicopter gunships being shipped from Russia to Syria. Is military action the only answer?
Well, unfortunately, sometimes you need such serious measures. We don't favor international military intervention, but if it is the only solution, I think we need to save the lives of the Syrian people.
If the regime were to be toppled, if Assad were to go, what sort of state would Syria be in?
Well, everyone is calling for a democratic civil state. There's an agreement amongst all opposition and no dispute about it, where every citizen has equal rights to the other, and freedom of worship, freedom of speech is expressed equally between all religious and ethnic groups.
But we only have to look at Egypt as an example, where hopes were high last year, and look at where we are now with Egypt. Do you believe
Syria
that
is different.
Happen?
Syria had a history of democracy from after the independence of the French Mandatory, and we had a Christian prime minister from that time. It wasn't a religious state where religion principles are forced by law. It was the Ba'ath Party military coup d'etat in 1963 which interrupted that democracy, and we hope to bring it back.
Shaykh Muhammad al-Yaqoubi, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.